Hey there, welcome. It's Nafissa Shireen, and on today's live and behind the scenes, we are talking about all things funnels. And so what I'm really excited about is I have a very special guest with us today. It's a long-term client of mine, Christen Schneider. She also happens to be the owner of Quiz For Your Biz, and she's a marketing expert, and she is a total expert on funnels. Funnels aren't my thing. I don't know how to do them. I don't know how to set them up. While I certainly use them in my business, it's something that I hire out to other people. And I was really excited today when Kristin agreed to join us because we are going to talk about all things funnels, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we're going to talk about Kristin's favorite kind of funnel, which is quiz funnels. And she's going to show you live and share her screen on how you can actually build one yourself. So you're going to want to stay till the end because we're going to have a discussion first, and then we're going to be showing you how to do this. And Kristin will be taking your questions. I'm going to be manning the chat, so I'm going to be looking over here a little bit on my screen to see who is asking questions, and we will be making sure to pass them on to Kristin. Now, if you're watching this on replay, don't worry about it. Ask your questions because I still get notified when we get a comment, and I can let Kristin know, and she can come back and answer your question for you. And we also have all of her contact below our video today, and I'll be reminding you of that throughout the broadcast that her contact information is below as well. She's also prepared a handout for you to help you figure out what your perfect lead magnet is, because the whole point of this is for you to get more leads in your business and qualified leads that you can make money. So with that, I'm going to just quickly ask Kristin to come on screen and tell us a little bit about herself before we start talking about funnels. So Kristin, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you. Yeah, sounds good. So what do you want to start with?
Well, let's just start a little bit about you and your business, and you know what your feelings about funnels, like why you feel they're important. And I've got some questions for you too. So
okay, yeah. Well, so you hear most of my funnel rants just because you see all of them. But so I love funnels, like you said. I think they're really useful. One of the things that you'll see me say a lot is that I don't sell funnels. I just make them either work better or differently or aim for different goals because every business has one already. So the funnel's just the fancy word for how people move from hearing about you to buying from you.
Yeah.
And
you've said every business has a funnel and needs one, right?
Every business has a funnel just because that's the only way to be in business is to make sales. So, and the funnel is the sales process. It's just the word that we use to describe it. And I also tend to call it like a sales web more than a sales funnel. It's just that nobody knows what you're talking about. So I just say funnel when I'm marketing what we do. They change, which I mean, you've like, even just from working with you for 3 or 4 years, like seeing the differences in the funnels that you've used from the services that you offer and the clients you're trying to reach and all of that kind of stuff. Like they were all good funnels. They were all effective, obviously, right? Like I found you and was, on board right away, and you've had awesome clients coming in all the way through, but they're going to be different funnels at every stage. So it's really the message and the audience that matters. Everything else gets built around that.
And I think one thing you said is really important, like if just even using my business as an example in the beginning, my funnel was really simple. It was like, here's an opt-in and come onto my list. And then I would be, sharing a newsletter every week. And as my business has grown, they're getting more complex just because as we're growing and we're reaching into different markets and we're doing different things. And so if you were to be speaking to somebody who hasn't maybe necessarily put in their first digital funnel or electronic funnel, what advice would you give them in terms of, starting where they're at and not getting all freaked out by the tech? We're going to talk about the tech in a bit, but I think people sometimes confuse the tech with what?
Right.
That's just a tool.
So, like you said, the tech is always just a tool. It's the message has to come first, and then you put it where it makes sense to go. And actually, because, and this, like I shifted, we went from doing marketing in general to just funnels over the last couple months. So all of my funnels don't work anymore. I mean, they work, like technically they work, but they're not the right funnel for what we're focusing on selling, because we had a funnel for websites and we had a funnel because we were doing all different kinds of marketing. So we're in the middle of this where all of a sudden you have to revamp everything and put all of these new funnels out. So I can personally empathize with that overwhelm. And I actually did a post on LinkedIn about this, like I think yesterday or the day before, of the idea of that it really, like you just do it in layers. You add a layer and then you see if it's working, and then you either take that layer back or you put another one down on top of it, because you can't add all of it at once, and even if you did, it would be ineffective. So like there's certain amounts where you can say, okay, I'm going to build this funnel, and then there's multiple tools involved in it. But you can't get 5, an evergreen webinar and a quiz and a lead magnet and this, and you're going to do cold phone calls, and like you can't put every bit of selling up all at once, because you wouldn't even be able to, one, invest your time in it to make it work, because everything has a ramp up period. And 2, you wouldn't know which ones were working.
Yeah, and I love that you put cold phone calls in there.
Yeah,
because that is actually a funnel on its own.
It is.
For people when you just get started, right? Like if you don't have the money coming in, and I think what a mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make is they put so much time and effort into tech without selling. And so I love how you say, like, okay, like even the phone calls, like it's about gradually building it up. And no doubt everybody needs to eventually get online and have a way to collect leads from outside their business and people that they don't know, that they can't.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in doing what doesn't scale until you need to scale. So for example, one of the things that we're putting out for one of our layers is actually that we're going to be selling these funnels, the quiz funnels, to kind of larger companies, not the smaller businesses that we do a lot of strategy with. But we're building that funnel as handwritten notes, which is because that's what will get us heard. And that's really all that I care about.
Yeah. So that brings me to the question, because I'm looking at some of the stuff you sent me about funnels, where you said, the biggest mistake people make is focusing on the tech instead of the story.
Yeah.
And I've seen that where, I'm in tons of Facebook groups where people will say, should I use, I'm not going to name any software right now, but, should I use this one? Should I use that one? Should I use this? And I saw a post yesterday. It was really timely. It was in a really big group with a lot of entrepreneurs who create online courses. And the question was, I'm looking for an online marketing coach. And then this person went on to explain that, basically we do this, we do that, we do this. We really can't focus. So we need an online marketing coach to take all of our stuff and throw it out there. It was the gist of it. And a lot of people popped in and said, I think you don't need a marketing coach right now. You need a clarity coach, and then move on to the marketing. And so I went to their website and I couldn't figure out the story. So could you talk a little bit about that? Because, I've heard an expression where it's like, poop at the top of the funnel, poop comes out the bottom of the funnel, right? Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. So automating a sales message that doesn't sell just means more people will tell you no.
Yeah. Okay. Can you repeat that again? Automating a sales message that doesn't sell means more people will tell you no.
Yeah.
And in my world on mindset, that's going to kill you.
Yep. Yeah. So it's just not helpful. So, and that's one thing that we've seen. One of the things that I launched a couple of weeks ago was just a real pointed, get an idea, flesh out for your lead magnet. And we did a whole bunch of sessions in a row. So it became really the pattern of where I always make people start with the story. A lot of people were surprised by that. And you could tell that they were great. They played along really well, but you could tell that they were kind of confused why we were taking 30 to 40 minutes of their hour to talk about what they're selling, who they're selling to, what they need to know, what their client needs to know. And we map out the whole story. And I always tell them, like, just go along with me. I promise 15 minutes before the end of the call, we'll switch and we'll start talking specifics. Like, I promise, just go with it. And we always do. And we always end up with plenty of options and everybody's always happy. But you have to take that time. Like, most of the time, especially from the business owner's point of view, needs to be spent on the story. If you're hiring somebody to help you with the funnels, they'll handle the other bits. Yeah. But like you said, whatever you're putting in at the top is going to come out the bottom. So and that's another thing that I'll say a lot is message first, tech second. So we have our favorite tech tools. I'll write funnels and sales flows for people that involve postcards and cold calls, like you said. For some local businesses, which we don't do as much brick and mortar, but for some local businesses, like the right sandwich board on the right day can work better than any $200 subscription to a software is ever going to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's just awareness of what fits you and the people you're trying to talk to. And it depends on the offer. It depends on where you are in your business. It depends on what you want to be selling, all that kind of stuff. And
when you work with people, do you have a way of drawing that information out of them?
Yeah. So we just go through a lot of questions.
So, and if you're watching this, there is a link to Kristin's, I think it's she's got a free gift for you on how to create your own lead magnet, but all of her contact info is below, and you can give her a call because she can actually help you flesh your message out really quickly.
Yeah. So so the freebie is it's like you said, it's nailing down which kind of lead magnet you need for right now. And I always tell people, like, you can have multiple lead magnets, just take 3 to 6 months between and put out a new one, because it's good content for you and your audience as well. But do, figure out what you need for right now and then table it. Like, I have a parking lot of lead magnets for us, like, just on a paper. When I'm ready for a new one, we'll make it.
And I think, and that's a really good point. I mean, and I'll speak to that because, one of the things that we had been doing in our own business, which I'm not going to do again, is we were creating a new lead magnet for every blog post, every video, everything to kind of go with that. And I mean, that exhausted us, right? And it actually did not necessarily create a cohesive message. So now we still have them out there. There's still great content. People can still grab them, but we're reusing a lot of it. And what we've been doing is just really narrowing down to 2 or 3 lead magnets that can all actually trigger the same funnel. because the thing is, like, if you have like 8,000 lead magnets, they may, like, if they're different things, like, we have things from boundaries to selling to marketing to financial calculators. They're not going to necessarily trigger the same funnel, and it will make no sense to the person. So we've really streamlined with that. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are really creative, and we really try to get all our ideas out there. And as much as we don't want to be constrained, that can be one of the most cash flow killing things, is to have so many different ideas out there, and especially lead magnets, because you won't actually create that cohesive message.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you said is exactly right. So, and I'll tell people that when we do, so there's doing lead magnet, and then we'll do either us or the strategy for it, and somebody will run off and do it themselves. That sequence that comes after a lead magnet, that's part of, so the lead magnet is anything that's getting somebody into the top of the funnel, basically. And most of the time it's a download or quiz or a video or webinar or something. It can be in person too sometimes, if you have, like, my brother is a real estate investor who has a coaching business as well, specific to that. And tonight it's his monthly lead magnet, basically.
Yeah.
At a local bar and restaurant, and he buys food and drinks for a bunch of people.
But there's still consistency, even though he does it every month, right? It's the same thing.
He does it every month. He just is super helpful and nice when everybody's there. People get a ton of value out of each other and him. So that's one of the examples of, he's doing what doesn't scale, but it's on message for him, just because that's his kind of thing, is his community, Cleveland first kind of thing. And people love it, and it works, he'll get new people.
Crystal has a comment here in the chat where she said, I spent so much time on content upgrades to go with my blog posts. Like, I feel that. And I think the one thing to think about too is all of us, we all have a core message. And so I think having just specific lead magnets, I think we underestimate how powerful that can be.
Yeah, you're better off with 2 or 3 really specific, because
that will tie into every blog post.
It will tie into everything, and it'll point them to your top offers too.
Yes.
Because your lead magnet should be helpful and valuable. It stands by itself. Like, I don't like fluff lead magnets where it's like, you say you're going to help somebody, and by the end they just feel like all you did was tell them that there's nothing they could do on their own. Like, they should be able to take a step, even if that step is recognizing that there's something they need solved.
Yeah.
Because awareness is help.
And can we talk about this for a second? Because you're talking about, like, a step. And I think another mistake I've seen people make with their lead magnets is that they're practically, I mean, I'm all about giving out as much free content as you can in little nuggets, because people really, they're not gonna be able to put it all together, right? And you give a ton of value, and that's when they go and they'll go and hire you. But I think a mistake that, and I made it too, where you just put so much into that lead magnet that a couple things happen. Either the person just, because they haven't invested any money in it, they're not bought into it, so they don't read the whole thing, right? If you have, like, a whole bunch of videos or a whole bunch of PDFs or lessons that come out, they maybe don't get through the whole thing. Or the ones that do, they're so full, they don't feel like they need to buy. So could you talk a little bit about how complex versus simple a lead magnet should be? Because it needs to have value. It needs to make the person, because, I mean, they've given you their email address. They've given your ideas and your business some of their time, the most valuable thing they have, to read it, look at it, watch it, listen to it. So you want to make sure that they feel satisfied. So where's that line between overgiving and giving just enough at that level?
Right. So I used to teach. So this is stuff that I tend to kind of geek out on. So, like, I went to school specifically to learn how people learn. Like you said, if it's too much information, it won't actually help them. because they'll either turn off or they'll think that they're good, get halfway through it without the assistance that they need, and then nothing comes out of it. And then you've wasted all of that time for them because you didn't take the responsibility of directing them to heart, and you didn't do like your part of the bargain. So people's attention spans are gone somewhere between 20 and 45 minutes.
Okay.
So if your lead magnet's first exposure is longer than that, without some kind of like in between stuff. So if you're going to give them a 30-minute video and then a 30-minute worksheet, okay, if whatever, but you're better off with 15 and 15 if you can break it down. And you're right. I actually had somebody that I did that Your Lead Magnet Done session with the other day, and 5 minutes in, she came to the realization that her lead magnet was actually pretty much a mini course, not a lead magnet. So what we did was we packaged it as a course. It will be helpful in a nice second step and a great entry-level purchase. But then we made a lead magnet that was based on the first step they need to take before they're even ready to do the course. And that's where you want to be. So you want it to be something where it's like you said, a nugget of information. A lot of times like you said, we have questions to dig this out, but like something that makes it so that they're ready to move forward. And then if you're dying to just lay it on thick, like if you want this big epic process lead magnet, then your responsibility is to take the time to do it right. Like, don't just dump it into this big folder and tell them have at it. You should do it as a 5-day challenge and show up for them to support them through it. And what's nice about that is that then there's some accountability, there's some feedback, and there's, for you, it scales a little bit. So it's okay to put a little bit more effort into it because you can help more people than one person at a time.
What I'd love to know from our audience, sorry, I keep interrupting, but I just want to make sure we get back to the audience here. If you're watching this live or if you're watching this on replay, just leave a comment. And I'd like to know from your perspective, I mean, obviously you're here to learn how to create lead magnets and funnels, but when you're on the receiving end, because all of us opt into things, what do you like? Do you like a long-term thing, or do you like something short and quick? Like what will capture your attention? I think that's really valuable, because that's going to help the rest of our audience also who are here to learn how to make these kind of see, well, what do people really want to see? I know for me, I tend to personally like it, as Kristin said, 15 minutes and done. Even when I pay for stuff, I like it 15 minutes and done. I don't like a lot of time. So.
And I think I have two things that don't let me forget, I have two things about what you just said, but that 15 minutes and done, I think that there's a mindset thing in that too, where if you're not really secure in the fact that you can give value, you give time instead.
That's a really good point. That's a tweetable.
And it's an insecurity thing, and it's an understandable one. Like, I do it too. Everybody does it. But we just get worried that 15 minutes of like gold level stuff is not going to be enough because we don't trust that it's really gold. So just be willing to get like into it and give the really good stuff and be done. By the time you layer on, it's more about you than it is about them. Then the two things I want to say about what you were saying, when you asked everybody about what they like, there's one thing about that's really important is, one, we can all talk about it and it's helpful. But then also, and Tim Ferriss is actually the person that I think I saw talk about this first years ago in 4-Hour Workweek. Now, he was talking about advertising, but it's the same idea. And I tell people to do this for email subject lines. I tell people to do it for lead magnets. But he said, save ads that get you.
Oh, when you're watching them.
Yeah. And then, or like,
if you're watching this, did you hear that? Where she said, you need to save ads that get your attention. So if that resonates with you, just give us a thumbs up and a like, because I want to know.
Yeah. And what's funny is everybody will save different stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you want to save stuff that gets you, because one, there's absolutely no reason to reinvent the wheel. Like if there's a structure of a headline that is getting you every single time, take it and adapt it for the way that your business works. Like other people who have studied advertising are creating that over and over again, like frameworks and story. You could take every rock song, every major movie, everything that's happened, and break 80 to 100% of them down to the same 4 main chunks.
Yeah.
Of every romantic comedy does this, then this, then this, then this.
Yeah.
Every rock song uses these 5 chords, 4 chords, whatever. Advertising and storytelling is no different. Okay. So start to pay attention to it, because you can adapt that to your business, and taking it and really making it yours is where taking it to the next level happens. But at the very least, start there. And then the other thing is that's why you need to know your ideal client. And that's why that's the first thing we do almost every time we talk to a client, even if we've worked with them before, because different steps of funnels have different, even if you know your ideal audience, a particular course might be a specific segment of your audience.
Yeah.
So you really need to define it every time you're trying to pull somebody into a new story, because what works for, an 18-year-old prospective college student as a lead magnet is not going to be what works for a 55-year-old person who's looking to sell their business.
Well, and even the stage or size of the business they're in, right? Like we're putting in a funnel right now, a new one, and we're using content that we already have, and it's really good content. But as I was looking through it the other night, there's a lot of stuff that we have to update through some of it, because I realized, hey, but I was looking to attract a different client at that time. So while the principles of everything in there applies, whether you're making, like you're just starting out or you're making, $5 million, how it's worded, how it's messaged, even something simple. So like one of our things, we've changed it from how to charge what you're worth to how to charge and get premium fees. Content's still the same, but those are two very different messages, right? So one is somebody who doesn't even know how to charge, and the other is someone who's been in business and it's time to up level. So I think it's really important to know, not just to know who your client is and know where you are in business too, and who you're trying to attract, because it doesn't necessarily change what you do. It just changes how you message it.
Very much. Yeah. And it's not just, okay, so our client is this many years old and they like this kind of coffee drink, which, that is important. Yeah. Like you need to know that kind of avatar stuff. But when we're talking about it in strategy sessions, we're talking about it specifically where they are right now, and the awarenesses and roadblocks and things that they need to have to move through this cycle. And that's going to be different, like you said, at different points of their business, and even just the exposure, like I said, the handwritten notes, we aren't, even though we're presenting the same ideas that we do for our more, entrepreneur, small business owner stuff, that I present when I'm with people on live videos or on LinkedIn or on Pinterest or whatever. I know that I'm not going to get that in front of a whole marketing department that way, because they're not all just trolling Pinterest together.
Exactly. So, yeah.
I need to get it in front of them the way their office functions. So some of it's pure logistics.
And so what I love about this is really about, this is the key to sales. This is the key to working with people, is empathy and really seeing everything from their perspective. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we love what we do. We're passionate about our work and our calling and our purpose. And that is a really, really good thing. However, when we're thinking about marketing and getting those leads into our business, we've got to step out of what's cool to us and really get into their mind. And as you said, it's not just the type of coffee they drink or what they like, but where they are in their thinking and in their awareness and what might catch their attention. It can take a while to really figure that out. And so sometimes that's why things and I think quizzes are also good for that too, because you can find out a lot of information about people through quizzes, right? And I wanted to kind of morph into that, because I know that's why people are here, or to learn about quizzes. And one of the things you say a lot, and I see it in your LinkedIn posts, is every business can have a quiz. So let's talk about that. I think from, hair salons to realtors to, coaches to restaurants, I think anybody can have a quiz, even if they're not thinking that it applies to them. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. So like you said, anybody can have one. It's just a question of, like with a lead magnet, finding the one that works. And it's anything that you can do to either expose awareness that somebody needs, and you can actually use quizzes to give information.
Yeah.
If you do it right. And
it's a great segmentation tool.
Yes, very much so. So, and I'm going to show you the program we use, because they do a fabulous job with segmentation, and we pay for the version that has more bells and whistles, but you can even do some of it, on their free account and stuff like that. So that was what we were going to go through. So just to give the examples that you had, so like coaching, every coach has certain types of people that they work with, or certain roadblocks that they see pop up a lot. So, for example, Dennis with Goals to Results, we were talking about, like, he's seen like different roadblocks pop up a lot with different clients. So when we were talking about a lead magnet, he could easily put that, I was telling him, you could easily put that into a quiz. And that was something he was looking at, on his own, where, he says it either comes down to like somebody not having the right vision, not having the right routines, or not having the right systems or something. I'm probably butchering his lead magnet, and he can come in and comment and fix it.
Here, Dennis.
So that was helping somebody see the awareness of like, you can tell there's a plateau, but what is it? And he could ask pointed questions that you would ask kind of in a discovery session, almost, with the most common answers as results. And
what's really cool about that is those are three very different things. With proper segmentation, you could have very targeted marketing for those solutions.
Yeah. And so we'll see that with some of the clients that we do. So for example, we've done, I come from like the bridal world years and years ago. So a lot of my clients have done that in the past just because of where my network was formed. And we've done some like, what bridal style are you? For the retail store. So like the idea of style or taste or that kind of like the personality quiz is a really popular one. So we'll walk them through, these are the styles and things like that. And what's nice is that you talked about how you can feed a lot of different funnels into one follow-up. So like we'll kind of segment each of the lists so that the first couple emails are specific to their style. So giving them examples of dresses for that particular client, the dress styles that are coming in those first couple emails are specific to the answers that they gave. Now, what's important for people, and it depends on what country you're in, and because I know some of the people in my network said that they were coming in from like the UK and stuff, and everybody has to follow up with like GDPR and some of the other spam things. You can't require people to give you their email for the follow-up. So you need to give them some results on the spot.
Okay.
And you always make sure that happens. But if you make it enticing enough, most people will give you their email.
Yeah. So you could say like, okay, this is your bridal style, like whatever that is, to get a full description of it. Give me your email address.
And we're going to send you some follow-up ideas and tips and motivations, or whatever it is that fits like your topic. Or if you were a restaurant and you said, what appetizer should you try this Saturday? And the quiz is, or what beer goes with your favorite steak, or, whatever. There's one that's advertised sponsored ads on Twitter constantly. That's like, these MIT grads figured out what chocolate goes with which wine or something like that. And they tell you to take the quiz.
And everybody loves them, right? I mean, you can tell that just like on Facebook, right? You go on Facebook. I mean, that's what's gotten people into so much trouble with their privacy, is because they've taken all these quizzes,
so
right?
That's a side note. Stop taking quizzes if you don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
But that has nothing to do with business.
Exactly. But it just shows how people have such a thirst for them. They all like to know, like, what kind of whatever am I, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
so I have my stats up just in case I was forgetting any of my talking points. And I have a page on my on the quizforyourbiz.com website. So there's christenschneider.com, because we do still do general funnels. Quiz For Your Biz is where we've set up specific to quizzes, because we are putting a lot of focus on that. And on there's a page that's quizforyourbiz.com/why it works, with like hyphens in between each one. And it was really interesting. There's this was from a couple years ago, but there was a post on OkDork, which is, I know that doesn't sound like it, but it's a really great business website.
Okay.
That said that 8 out of the 10 most shared articles on the internet over a particular 8-month period were quizzes.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Because people love to share them. So if you do a good job, now obviously like your quizzes may not hit the viral level of BuzzFeed, but there's a reason BuzzFead grew to BuzzFeed based on having quizzes.
Yeah.
And so you want to, and I say it on this page a little bit, you can dive into it if you go over there, but it's not about what pair of socks do you like to wear, unless you happen to own a sock store. Like, you're not just trying to get people in, which is where I think a lot of people they've put all of this effort and excitement into quizzes, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. And it goes back to what you said at the beginning of the meeting. Like, you put the wrong stuff in at the top, it's not going to give you the results you want at the bottom. So if you make a quiz that everybody takes, but it has nothing to do with what you want them to care about, you're just doing a lot of work for them to have a little bit of fun for half,
Yeah, and then you're paying to carrying all those people and contacts in your system that aren't making you any money. So so I thought what would be fun to do, and what Kristin has agreed to do, and I really appreciate it, so thank you, is she's going to do a demo on how to build a quiz. And again, like, this is, I mean, if you need help with it specifically, put questions in the comments and she'll come back to you. And also her contact information is below. And I'm actually going to put it here too at what would be your main email address for people to contact your business at? Is it hello?
Hello at christenschneider.com is the most proof way.
KristenSchneider.com. So let me spell your name right.
Okay, nobody ever does.
And so, I mean, because she can help you. I mean, because she can really help you with your messaging as well to make sure, like, even if you do decide to build one yourself, you want to make sure that you have the messaging right and that you have the right quiz for your business.
Yeah.
But let's dive in and look at how to do this because I'm excited to see it too. I've never
So
seen
there
this.
are half a dozen quiz platforms, and a lot of them are really effective. So I am going to show you the one that we use for most of our clients. We'll pick up additional accounts if we need to, because sometimes bigger clients need something a little bit more robust in different ways. Like they might just need something else. But most of the clients that we do quizzes for get put into Interact. So the website for them is tryinteract.com. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a real basic example of a finished quiz. And the pictures are absurd. That was on purpose. We were just goofy.
I like flat-faced dogs. What can I say?
So there's a bunch of different ways you can do Try Interact. I actually use this one as an example because it's to show that you don't need to do anything fancy for the tech, right? So like there's some stuff on here that a free account won't accomplish, like having our logo down in the corner. That's something that we get when we pay for accounts, and all of our clients are on our paid accounts. So when we make something for a client, this is what it would look like. Your free version, if you do it yourself, will look slightly different, but you'll still have this ability to have it be full screen and all of that kind of stuff. Because you can see this is actually a Try Interact page. Now you can embed it onto your website if you have control of your website. If you don't use a web designer, or you can have somebody set it up for you with embed codes and a bunch of other stuff that they make pretty easy to follow, but the easiest is this. So that's why I wanted to pull this version up. So you can see you can change colors, you can change font, there's good pictures. And then there's some basic elements. So you're going to want good images. My phone's not silenced, and I'm afraid it's going to go off, so give me 2 seconds. The good images and good messaging, like you said. So there's a lot of places that you have copy, and this is just the title page, right? If you don't get people on this page to click that button, nothing else you do matters.
The take quiz button. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So you need a good, it's like an email campaign, right? Like your subject line is number one. And you want it to be clickbaity without not making sense, basically. And then you want a good image, and you need a tagline that makes them excited to go. So that's your title page. And then you have
the tagline, that would be the title of the quiz. Is that what?
So the tagline is what, sorry. It's what's under the picture. So we've got the title up here. And then just kind of an explanation underneath is what I call it.
Okay, got it.
I don't know if that's like an official term or anything, but it's to get them involved. You don't have
so what I'm hearing, I mean, this is even before we get into the tech. You've got to be able to know how to write that in a way that connects with your ideal audience.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And that's the messaging bits.
And so when you're working with people on those messaging calls, I mean, that's one of the first things you're working on, like how to make that connection so that they actually click it.
Yeah.
Right?
So there's several of our clients who they'll go build the quiz on their own, but they'll sign up for our messaging and strategy just like any other funnel, and we'll do we'll map out, this is your title, this is your tagline, these are your questions, and you can get feedback on them and stuff like that. So yeah, you can take it any level of support. We basically can make it work. So then they click the question, and then there's different types of questions, but this is a personality quiz. So there's 3 types of quizzes that you're going to see on Interact, and in most ways, there's an assessment, which is like a multiple choice test from school, right? There's a right answer and then the wrong answers. That's not what this is about. This is a personality quiz, but that's one type that you'll see. And you'll see that more for like, if you happen to be, I don't know, what I would love to see is like if the Cleveland Indians hired me next week, they're on my lead list. And we said like, how well do you know the 1960s Cleveland Indians or something? If you were trying to test real fans' knowledge, you would do an assessment. So I'm going to show you in a minute where you pick those things. This in particular. Okay,
so it's assessment, personality, and what's the third one? I'm just putting it into
a score quiz.
Score. Okay.
So for example, when I first signed up with you, you had a scored quiz. You just didn't have it on an electronic platform, but I remember taking it for you. It was something about your profit
Profit potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a scored quiz. So that's where like you make the person's answering questions just like the other ones, but they get a certain number of points, and the points file them into categories.
Okay.
We've had one of those in the past that let people know like how solid their website was.
Okay.
So those are the three main types of quizzes, and I'll show you how to pick those. I can't go into all of the stuff that lets you know which one you should do and figure all of that out, but I'll show you how to pick it once you make the choice. But this particular one is a personality
And
quiz.
I'm just going to pause you right there. Like, and again, this gets back to the whole part about, what goes in at the top. So you also, in addition to knowing your client and knowing the messaging, you need to know like what would be the appropriate quiz for that person, or it could also not work, right?
Yeah, and it's a mix there of knowing the topic, knowing the end result, and knowing the audience, like you said. And at every step of this, what title do we need? Well, you need to know the topic, you need to know the end result that you want them to be headed towards, and you need to know who you're talking to. Well, what kind of quiz do we need? Well, you need to know what they're going to be interested in, who you're talking to, what you want them to do, all that kind of stuff. So it's the same questions asked in different ways every time, but you have to be able to answer them and do it at every step, or you're going to lose them.
Okay.
Along the way. And so this, in a personality quiz, you'll see it's just different options, right? So this is really simple. There's only 3 options. Sometimes you'll see if you've ever taken BuzzFeed quizzes, there'll be like 9 options. But you ask a question, you should have an image of some kind on if you can. If the answers don't make sense for an image, you don't need to do the answers as an image, but Interact does let you. So to go back to like those bridal style quizzes that we talked about, we could use there was a question that said, what kind of manicure are you planning on getting for your wedding? And there would be pictures of different types of manicures. So if a question does lend itself to a visual impact, that's one thing that this tool lets you do, which is great. So just for example, I'd pick like I said, the pictures are supposed to be weird for this. we pick pictures for our clients' quizzes if they want us to, and we have stock subscriptions to get nice, professional, good pictures. You ask a question, you give them choices, you ask a question, you give them choices, and you're trying to walk them down the journey here. And you can see, so they answer all of the questions. And then you get to a results page. So that because this is supposed to be a demo, there's only 3 questions. You actually should be aiming for somewhere between 7 and 10. But for this demo, there's only 3.
It's between 7 and 10, okay.
Yeah, so like you'll lose people after 10, but if it's fewer than 6 or 7, they kind of wonder why there were only that many questions.
Okay.
This is a good example of where I say, you don't have to give us your email, but you really want to.
Okay.
Right? Like that's not what's said here, but that's what's said here. So, the one thing that's best practice that we've, heard on a couple different platforms is that just putting your title again works here. I think Interact actually said that on one of their case studies that I saw once. So you'll see that most of the time we'll just repeat the title on the results.
Okay.
And then you need to get them interested in hearing from you again.
Okay.
And then you need somewhere to collect their information if they're willing to do that. And then I always blatantly, and this is just for me, not for clients. I let clients kind of direct what they want said here. But for me, I always blatantly say, this is my newsletter.
Okay.
Because I just don't I want people to know that if they're going to get upset that I'm sending them a newsletter, I don't want them on there. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I don't want newsletters from everybody I've ever seen online. And neither does everybody else. So I want them to be very clear. Like, I'm going to give you the results. You don't have to do this, but if you want, here's the newsletter kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think everybody has to, in terms of whether it's a click box or just an advertisement or however, whether it's just a notification or they actually opt into that, I think that's something that, neither of us are making a recommendation on. That's something that you as a business owner need to do your own risks and risk analysis, talk to your own lawyer about that to make the right choice for your business, because we're not lawyers.
And every country is totally different, and every business has kind of different best practices, and some health businesses need even more rules that aren't even specific. So you definitely, that's why I said we let clients direct that part.
So that's why it's really important that if you are making that decision here, you're not relying on anything Kristin or I are telling you, that you do speak to your own lawyer about that.
Yeah. And there's a ton of resources and lawyers out there in different groups who are great about providing that information, and will even give you, if you are in a really regulated industry, they'll have the words you need and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like medical and financial services. I mean, those are highly, highly regulated industries.
And most of you know if that's you. But
Yes.
for anyone who's new, or hasn't heard GDPR, which I don't know how you could get away from it in the last 18 months, but look into it. But so the one thing I will say, even not from a legal standpoint, but just a best practice, is that people should be able to skip that part. Like, they shouldn't have to sign up for your newsletter. In my opinion, that's not a law thing. I just think that that's one of those things where that's just good business in my mind. And that's what this skip this step is. And so if they click that, it'll get them to the exact same page that they'll see if they enter the information.
Okay.
So, I could put my first name and email and click the checkbox, and it would send the results to my newsletter list.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need my own email on my newsletter list. So I'm going to actually click the skip the step. And then here's a results page.
Okay.
So you would give them the results at the top of the page, and I'll show you how to put all of this stuff into the actual platform. We're going to do one result, one question, all that kind of stuff, so you can see how it works. And then you want to give them a paragraph or two. Don't just give them a sentence, but give them information about the result. So I can't cover everything that we cover when we do the quiz strategy with everybody, because I know you don't want me here for like the next 3 hours, but just a couple pointers. If you're writing these yourself, keep every result positive, unless you have very good reason not to be. So like, don't insult people in the results. Say, this is a good thing, but here's how you could improve X, Y, and Z.
And that's a really good point about messaging and marketing. I think too many. I mean, obviously everybody has pain points, and we do want to tap into them, but it's a lot better to turn them into desire points, I think.
Yeah, and I always tell clients that you want to turn the screw a little bit on the pain point in a nice way. Yeah. But paired with giving them hope.
But like right here, what you said, yes, a quiz could help your business make more money. It's very positive, but it's also hitting that pain point of, I'm not making enough money. Right? So you hit two things at once, which is really cool.
Yeah, so exactly. So you want to hit those pain points, but you want to do it in a way where you're not insulting people. This one in particular, I was kind of talking about why the demo was so short. Because I want to so what you're doing here is you want to show them where they can benefit from this. And then what is true. So for me, what's true is that basically it doesn't matter what you're answering. For the most part, I think you could do a quiz. There's one result that says you don't need a quiz. And basically that was somebody who said, we're at capacity. We don't need any more leads. And and I'm not saying that sarcastically, like, there are businesses that's true for right then. Yeah. But even then the result says, that doesn't mean you couldn't use one in 6 months. So stick around. So, and then you want a call to action. There's a button here where you're going to direct them to wherever you want the rest of the funnel to go, right? So they're still going to be put on your email funnel if they gave you their email, but sometimes people won't, one. And two, even if they are on your email funnel, you've got their eyes here. Why not send them somewhere they can continue to learn?
And every time they click, you're creating a micro conversion anyway, right? Like they're saying yes as they go along. It's all subconscious, which is my stuff that I love. But it works so that they just keep them engaged.
You do, and it's a really important point too, and it ties into something that we were talking about earlier, where I talked about how I kind of call them, to me, like mentally, their sales webs, not sales funnels, because nobody's going to follow the exact same 8 steps from finding you to buying as another client. Yeah. Because they're not all going to start at the exact same minute in the exact same way with the exact same needs and the exact same questions. So they're going to see different social media posts, which are part of your funnel because it's part of your messaging. They're going to see different emails at different times of the day after they ate a different piece of food that made them cranky or whatever. Every bit and piece, it's that butterfly effect of like everything is going to affect the way that people interact with you from a sales perspective too. So like you said, those micro pieces of content are actually really essential bits of your funnel in general. And I tried to, one of the things, a lot of the lead magnet calls that I did a couple weeks ago were people based in Europe. And I didn't realize but very few people knew Price is Right as well as I do as an American. And so
I know, and I'm Canadian. I grew up with Bob Barker.
Yeah. Okay. So like I was trying to say that to me, a sales funnel really functions more like sales Plinko. where they're dropping their chip in at the beginning and it's going to hit different posts all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
And then they end up somewhere else in a decision for a sale. So you want to have a way for them to get, so you want to make sure that all of the different slots on the bottom are results you actually want.
Yes.
So
yeah. Well, and like you even talk about that first one you took of me, every single one of them was a result that I would help somebody with, right? Although I mean, I don't go to the very beginners right now, but back then I was aiming towards that. But it's just here. This is how I can help you if you're here, and this is how I can help
and
you
honestly,
if you're here.
like, if it comes down to it, because there are certain people where they know that they're not the right fit right then. If you're really interested in serving people, then if that's true for you, which it can and should be for some people, then one of your slots at the bottom might be, here's a great resource for where you are right now. Like here's the person you need to go find.
Yeah.
And that's the same, that's doing somebody a service. So
absolutely.
That can be one of the things to pay attention to. And that might be one of your results. Especially from like a medical perspective.
Well, that builds trust too. If somebody says like, I can't help you, but I know who can, you are still helping them then.
Yeah. And so a long time ago, I had a bridal store, like I said, and I would always take the 15 minutes, like somebody, how shopping is, like for the most part, you can tell if somebody's in the right place.
Yes.
And I was a very specific kind of store. So within 5 minutes, I could tell if a bride was, going to have the potential to find a dress there. And I would say, look, I don't have it. Like, I'm just going to tell you flat out, like, you can try on dresses. I'm here with you for an hour and a half. That's fine. But I don't have it for what you're saying. So here are the 5 stores in our city that would. And I would write them all down for people. And that was something that I was kind of surprised over the years to find out other bridal stores didn't do.
Wow.
And I just think, like, to me, that's, well, first of all, it's a wedding dress. Like, that's just kind of important. So to me, there was a huge vested interest in helping them find the right one, whether it was with us or not. But that's true as a coach or a health practitioner or whatever too, right? Like, if they need to quit smoking before they can train with you to do a marathon, like, you should have a resource for them to do that.
Absolutely.
If that's not your specialty, like, help them where they actually need help. So that's something you can do here. You can also do hyperlinks in here. It's like any kind of blog post. So you can direct people to resources. You don't want to direct them to too many places that take them away from you, just from like a practicality standpoint. So this, although we have them, takes them to my stats page on my website, where I've gathered information for them, because I want to keep them on our ecosystem as long as possible. Okay. And then the quiz started is our call to action, which, like you said, is like a mini conversion, and it takes people to things that I would want them to be thinking about doing when it comes to getting their quiz made.
Okay.
So that's the quiz from start to finish. That's what they're going to see. Now we can kind of talk about how
to build it, the fun part, the juicy part.
I will show you all of the steps. I won't drag you through the kind of tedious part of doing the same step over and over and over again for 10 different questions, but we'll go through each step so that you could do it that way. So one of the things that Interact has is templates. I'm going to be honest, I would not do them unless you
not do a template. Okay.
Yeah. So, like, not because they're, from a design standpoint, they're great, but it means that if you're not really good at customizing, you're going to be shoehorning your message into an already created like they've already written things, right?
So I think the reason people would tend to go to a template, because my brain just goes, oh, template, because I am not, I don't do tech. So I think if this is something where somebody is really feeling like that they're going to be a lot more comfortable with the template piece, but then the template doesn't fit because, like you said, you're putting your message into someone else's box. This is where you can help them, right? Like, you can
so, like,
take that stress off them.
If you were dying to get one out and you came in, so I'll show you, for example, how generic it is for, like, if you said, you know what, Nafissa, Shireen, we need a coaching quiz, and I'm going to come in here, I'm going to pick a template, I'm going to pick coaching. This is an example of those 3 types, by the way. And you picked from their templates for personality quizzes. Like, what's great about this is you can kind of get an idea of what they've tested has good conversions. Okay. Right. But, like, the likelihood, first of all, these are all very generic, right? And second of all, like, what type of coach are you? Probably isn't the lead magnet topic you need for your coaching package.
Exactly.
Pointed towards. So, while I appreciate, like, I love the case studies that Interact gives, I think they do a really good job with their education. I think their customer service is great. From a personal standpoint, I don't use the templates, obviously, because that's what I'm paid for.
Exactly.
Doing, but I actually wouldn't even recommend it. I would rather see you go in, look at what they've done if you need examples, but go make your own from scratch, in my mind. So we'll go back to from scratch. Again, you're going to be picking here. So many quizzes end up as personality, so that's what we're going to do today. But just to give you an overview, assessment gets built very similarly, just has some slightly different results.
Okay.
Answers scored, it's a little more complicated when you're building it because you have to give them point ranges for each question.
So you'd almost need to calculate that offline first then too.
You
Like
need to
actually
calculate the ranges first, and you need to figure out how all of that's going to work. So, you know, question 1 has answer A, B, C, and D. So if they answer A, they're going to get 2 points. And if they answer D, they're going to get 4 points, and, you know, that kind of thing. If you do scored, I would suggest not running the answers in numeric order. Like, everybody knows what you're doing.
Okay.
So if you're trying to really make it like to give them an honest answer, if you say like, how, you know, what's your financial IQ? Say you're, you know, like an accountant or something. You do what's your financial IQ, and you give questions that let them assess how much they actually understand about their finances. Really great quiz, right? Great topic. It'll give you good leads if that's something that you're working towards, like if you're a financial counselor. But don't run the least knowledgeable to the most knowledgeable answers in order.
Every single question.
Yeah, because everybody has an ego issue, and they're going to click the top one because they can tell it's the top one.
Yeah.
So mix them up, like write them on paper, like you said, or in a Word document or something, and then mix them up and put them in a random order.
So again, this gets back to Kristin, like what we were talking about. I mean, the tech, like you said, you know, people focus on the tech, and the tech is really cool, but there's so much story and thinking and strategy that has to go behind the tech.
It's an interesting mix of the storytelling and marketing, which I love, but also kind of like how human brains learn and work and bring in information too. So like what I just said, I learned in college, not in marketing, because we learned not to give students really, like, if you're trying to test somebody's knowledge, you don't want to put the, like, you know how people say, oh, just answer B all the way down. It's always B.
Yeah.
So in teaching colleges, they're like, don't just make the answer B. So,
yeah, and that's what you bring to this. I mean, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, I talk about this quite a bit too, like whether, you know, I'll think about like courses, right? You know, you can buy the best saddle, the best tack, the best ropes in the world, but if you don't actually have a relationship with your horse, you're probably not going to get really good results if you don't learn horsemanship. So it's, or building a house, you can have like the most fanciest tools, but if you don't know anything about building, the tools don't do much if you don't use them, if they're not used with some underlying knowledge and strategy underneath it. So I think that's the same with the funnels. If you're going to build one on your own, to be very sure that you've got your messaging straight, that you've picked the right kind of funnel, and that you know things like this, like what Kristin said. I mean, part of what she knows is coming from being an educator, not necessarily from a marketing training, understanding how people learn and think. So these are just things to really think about so that you're not putting garbage in at the top.
Yeah, and
at the bottom.
I think also, like you said, it's about having the right stuff for the right thing too. Like horsemanship, I would not know the first thing about, but anybody who was doing a quiz about a saddle would need to make sure that, you know, if you were, you know, I'm sure like you're the company that you got that amazing custom saddle from, like they have to educate people to make sure they're making the right choices.
Totally.
So
you have to know that, like, and again, they couldn't just know saddles. They have to know how you sit, how you ride, what your goals are, what you want to do, what your fear level is. There's just so much to it, right?
Yeah. So it does not matter what industry you're in, like you're in the business of information, both from you positioning yourself as an expert so that you can help people, and also of gathering information about your clients so that you can help direct them towards the right choice. So like, even if you like, even if you're in an auto parts store, because I saw there was a video on LinkedIn the other day from Gary Vee, who was helping somebody plan out some marketing for an auto parts store. And he was talking about doing a reality show, because that's kind of not reality show, but you know what I mean? Like a behind the scenes show production, because that's what he specializes in. And it was a brilliant idea. But, you know, to twist that and put them in the position of an educator in a quiz, instead of here's information we want you to know about our daily business, they could do how much do you really know about, you know, changing your oil or whatever. They're in a position where they need to, 1, educate, and 2, figure out stuff. because they need to know, where you are in your information. They need to know where your car is, like all that kind of stuff. So the information is what matters when it comes to this stuff. And then knowing how to exchange that information is like you said, it's almost like an education thing.
Yeah.
And then you need to be able to put that together. And it's true in every level of your content, that engagement. I always tell people during our lead magnet strategy sessions, like you have to be doing good teaching. You can't just talk at them for 3 pages.
Yeah. Well, and it's like that with everything, right? Like, I mean, it's funny because, just even having a YouTube channel, right? Here's a great example. I mean, my husband's quite technologically savvy. So you can have all the lights, you can have all the good cameras, you can have the good hair and makeup. But if your content's not good and on message and getting the right people, you're not going to get the views. And, sometimes you'll see people that have like really bad lighting, really bad camera. You can hardly see them. The sound's not great. And they've got like hundreds of thousands of views. So it gets down to that story and are you connecting to the right person? So we're helping you out here today to show you how you can actually go in and build this. But the key takeaway here is, and you can do this, but just make sure that before you go investing time and money in building one, that you have really gotten clear on the story, your audience, the right type of assessment for them, the way they learn, all of that to make this really effective. Because if you make it really effective, this can be so lucrative for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it doesn't really, even going back to the auto parts store, the value of a customer versus the cost of customer acquisition. When you automate things like this that are low entry cost, even though our funnels, when we build them for people, like the strategy can run anywhere from like, a strategy session to a 30-day package. And those are their own levels of investment. But for like a done for you funnel for us is a totally different level. And you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars, depending on how many branches and like levels of emails you're getting into and different, like you were talking about segmentation. A lot of times we'll find the clients, we're building them 4 separate email sequences based on different results and things like that. So it just depends on the complexity that you need. But if you think about it, how many leads are you pulling in and how the lifespan of this, and good customers are so valuable.
Yeah.
Doing this right. And your time costs you money if you're doing this DIY, which a lot of our clients do. Like you don't want to spend the time to put this together, and your trust costs money too. I forget who was talking about that. Tim Ferriss again, I think. He was talking about, maybe it was Seth Godin on Tim Ferriss's podcast. I don't remember, but they probably both said it at some point. They're talking about how trust is one of the biggest, probably Seth, because this is his thing, right? Trust is like permission marketing. That trust is the highest level of currency somebody can give you.
Yes.
Like if you point them to a quiz that wastes their time, you're spending more than dollars there.
So I just want to pause for 1 second. I'm not sure how many people we do have here live, and if you are on the replay, like if you have any questions so far about messaging, or if there's anything specific to your business that you would like some insight on, so that Kristin can help you answer, or even she can ask you a question that'll get you thinking to help you get that funnel built correctly and get your lead magnet built correctly, just pop them in the chat and we'll keep popping back to it because I am watching it. But this is what's going to help you. This is your opportunity. And again, if you're watching on replay, don't worry. I will get the notifications if a comment comes up, and I'll ping Kristin to come back and answer it. But just ask some questions that could help you create a better funnel for sure.
Yeah, and to take off from that, just as a good starting point for anybody who's running into that, I said Seth Godin says, trust is permission marketing is a big thing for him. Trust is a big piece of currency. And I'm probably butchering it because it's not my motto, it's his. But like everybody who's effective at messaging, if you really pay attention to their videos, they say the same 3 to 5 things over and over again. Like if you get really clear on your messaging, that means that you've taken the time to figure out what are like the 3 hills that you'll die on. And if so, the different ways of wording that as like, and I'm big on journaling prompts and stuff for your own clarity, although we'll work it out verbally if you're in a session with me. But just the question of like, what do I find myself saying the most? What are my taglines? What are my mottos? What are my stands? Like, what do I stand for? There's a bunch of different ways you can word it, but if you kind of really hone in on those, it makes a lot of the other stuff that you're talking about easier.
And you know what, you can even ask some of your best clients, right? If you're not sure, because sometimes I don't think we're aware necessarily of what it is we say or do all the time. But your clients, your kids, your spouse, they'll tell you what you say and do all the time that makes you you.
Yeah,
sure.
and ours are definitely very message centered, like you've talked about. So like the message first, text second is something that we'll say a lot. You know, your message matters. We like that because we think we're being clever, because your message matters is different than your message matters, and then your message matters sounds different. So we can stress different things. I don't know. We thought it was funny. But once you know your mottos, you can really start to build around it. This is a back end picture of kind of what we were looking at, right? So you can see how it mimics the one we kind of took a tour through.
Okay.
So the title and the tagline, and then the take quiz, right? And then there's the picture. So I'll kind of show you some of the things that you would use that we're not going to get into right now, like branching logic would be that this is where it starts to get complicated, right? So like this is where if they answer A, they get question 2, but if they answer B, they get question 2A.
Got it.
So like this is where you start to get the really long plan. Like this is a complicated quiz, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure this is a bells and whistle kind of thing. But
that's not something somebody just starting out needs to worry about, right?
No,
They could just have a very simple quiz to get going. It's
not something I would really tackle on your first quiz, and I wouldn't tackle it. Honestly, I don't think you can tackle it without a paid account.
Okay.
So, but just to show you that that's where you can do a lot of different stuff. This lead capture you're going to want to turn on. And this is where you elaborate it into, you integrate it with your different list and follow-up things. So
that's a question I have. Does this integrate with mail providers like MailChimp, Infusionsoft, Entreport, Drip?
Yeah, basically, that's one of the things I like about Try Interact. And so you can customize your form, right?
Okay.
This is where you saw, I said the title of the quiz, and then I had that long thing about why they should hold on. No, I'm trying to, it was the one that said skip this step. And then I had this of like, we'll send you more information. And then, so that's where you customize this. You can see, you can do different colors. So you should know the branding. This is stuff that we do with our clients, but like you should know your branding colors and everything before you start doing all this stuff. We have a whole checklist for it that we send over. You can see that you can enable GDPR. But again, even this is maybe not enough for you, depending on who you are. So figure this out, like you were suggesting, with a lawyer or whoever you rely on for that kind of information. And then there are some more advanced things, but I don't suggest worrying about those. So you customize this, and then you save it and continue. And this is where you can see all the different things that Try Interact integrates with.
Oh, wow. There's quite a bit.
Yes. Yeah, so quite a few. Most people listening to this video are going to be fine.
Yeah.
So we obviously end up doing like almost everything to MailChimp because that's where a lot of our clients are. Personally, we use ConvertKit for most of our business stuff, not the Quiz For Your Biz. I've been putting on MailChimp just because it was faster to get up, and I know both systems.
But it's really cool because if there's Drip and Infusionsoft and Entreport that connects with it, you can really, for those that do have the bigger systems that haven't tried a quiz yet, you can really get into some really cool segmentation then.
Yeah, so for bigger businesses that are already really heavily involved in Infusionsoft, you can get into that. Same with HubSpot. I know can be a really elaborate system. I've got a friend, my old college roommate is in marketing as well, and she does bigger corporate stuff. She's in a PR firm, and they do a lot, like she's a HubSpot expert. So I know that you can get really elaborate within HubSpot. So like any of these are great options. And then, so that's all the different integrations. So you would follow their to-dos. They've got a lot of how-to videos for Interact. So I'm not going to drag you through all of that tech stuff. If you basically you just follow their directions, right? So like you would tell them MailChimp, you would log in, and then you would.
Wow, that is simple.
Right? Yeah,
there's no API key or anything. Wow.
And then it'll ask you, so for this result, which list do you want to do? So once it has permission to tap into your MailChimp, it actually pulls all of the name of your list into Interact. So you don't even have to go back and forth. But I will say that's one thing we didn't know at the first time, and it was really frustrating. You have to set up your list first, then build the quiz.
So that's in MailChimp though, right? Because MailChimp is very list.
Yeah, well, so it'll depend on the system a little bit, but in most cases, you should have where you're funneling them to already created.
Okay.
Before you get into the quiz, because it's going to ask you, and if it's not there when you log in to do the integration, you're going to have to log out, go create it, go back in, go integrate it again.
So then if you're in something like Infusionsoft or Entrepreneur or Drip, you'd actually have to have your campaign created first.
Yeah, we just did an Infusionsoft, and I think I remember that you can have it automatically make the campaign and send it to Infusionsoft because it's a little more elaborate. But even that, it can be a little frustrating because then, yeah, I think it might even make you do that. So it'll depend on the integration. But
that looks relatively simple, though. I mean, for the most part. I mean, if anybody's using any of the more complicated systems, they actually know all the foibles of your system, right? And so,
or they have somebody who's helping them. So, for example, that client I was working with for Infusionsoft, there were 3 of us on the video call because she had her Infusionsoft manager.
Yeah.
So we were talking and getting it done right then. And it took us 10 minutes and we were done. And then I went back to doing the quiz part. So, yeah, I just follow their prompts because that's why there's a different sequence for all of those programs. But they'll have good help for you. Now from the actual quiz building, everybody's going to be doing about the same thing. So you would put your title in, right? And I've, just as an example, I've prepared, just like a quick. So you put your title in, you pick your images, and if you don't have professional stock images, please don't steal them off of Google Images. I'm big into intellectual property rights, but also you can get sued. So don't do that. I use Unsplash as well. Just pay attention to licensing rules and all the legal stuff.
Unsplash?
Unsplash, yep. It's good for commercial images. So for example, we could use this one nope, we can't use that one. They're picky about the photo size.
Okay.
You can, if you are good with tech, you can shrink an image. And then it's real easy.
I'm terrible with tech, but Rebecca's really good at it.
Well, and one of the things that we have for our strategy clients so there's 3 different levels of this, right? Like you can watch this video and go try it on your own, like 100%. Some of you guys know tech. Have at it. And I don't even mean no tech like you're a whiz. I mean, like, how to use an email platform. You probably can figure out this. It's the question of whether you want to. And then we have, like you said, some of the strategy sessions where we'll walk somebody through like what.
I just want one sec, just for those who are watching replay. Rebecca just typed into that another resource for images is Pexels, so she's put that in the live chat. If you're watching on replay, just pop up to the live chat. She's got
great. If you're like a mid-sized business and you don't want to use the freebie ones because they're getting pretty prolific, right? Like a lot of them are popping up over and over again because they are free and there's a lot of small businesses using them. Adobe Stock subscription is real cost effective. So I want to say it's like $35 a month or something like that in US dollars. And you get 10 images. It might've gone up since we subscribed because you get grandfathered in, but it ends up working out so that your stock photos end up being somewhere between $3 and $5.
Which is pretty good compared to like 25. Yeah.
So if you're a mid-sized business and a $30 to $60 a month subscription for stock photos isn't going to kill you, you can get more personalized.
And of course, you know what I'm going to say, right? Like if you want your quiz to be really good and you're putting like 10 images in there, just buck up the money. Like it's only going to cost you a couple $100 to have
I'll plug myself here and say that we buy your photos for you if you work with us. So, but it's because we have that subscription. So,
yeah.
So one of the things that we provide, even the strategy people, because for them, it's what matters is that I have all of the different image sizes that you need, like down to the pixel. So that you have that all on one sheet so you can find the right ones that way. But you would crop and save. It's not really hard. And then it pops in. And then, you put your tagline down here, which like we said, there's kind of like an art to getting the right one. And you want to put a call to action to get into it, right? So,
and I've noticed with your calls to action, they're not like click here or it's very what's the word, like engaging or drawing you in. Like
I definitely tend towards a conversational conversation. That doesn't sound very conversational.
Yeah, but I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but it's just, again, it's this gets back to that piece about knowing your messaging and knowing how to communicate and knowing how to create people to take action, because people are very jaded and they're very well aware of what a call to action is.
Yeah,
so
and you know
it's
what?
a little more subtle.
There's not the only thing that matters when you're communicating with people is building trust.
Yeah.
And there's different types of trust that are needed for different people. So the trust that you need to build as a doctor is different than the trust that you need to build as an accountant. That's different than the trust that you need to build as a relationship coach.
Yeah.
So there's different calls to action. There's different taglines. Like all of that's going to change depending on the people you're talking to and the type of trust you need to build.
Yeah.
So for me and the type of trust I need to build, like you said, that tends to be my style. So that's your front page. They call it your cover. So the way that they have you go through it from a workflow standpoint is cover, results, then questions.
Okay.
I don't do show multiple results almost ever. I don't do redirect results almost ever. I like to keep it really simple for most people. But you'll
So what does that mean? If you could explain what multiple results or
the redirect
results
lets them take it to a landing page, basically.
Okay.
So like you're taking them, instead of it being the results page that we saw when I gave you the tour through the demo quiz,
Okay.
it's taking them to a page on your site, which if for a more complex business that has better control over their website and they want to be creating landing pages, like that's a great, Jenna Kutcher is a coach that uses Interact, I think, still. She had at one point, and she had been, from what I could tell from a tech standpoint, it looked like she was redirecting her results because she has that whole system built into her. Like we talked about adding layers.
Okay.
She had a lot of success.
Yeah, so that's a little bit more complex, right? So for if you're a little more advanced, but I mean, a lot of times you don't necessarily need to take it to that level of branding. And she's all about branding too, so of course she's going to have her control on that 100%. But again, if you're just starting out with a quiz, I mean, it's about getting the trust and the lead.
Just do the results right in here. And to kind of go, you had a quiz where you take people through archetypes and you give them like their top 3 and then a shadow one or something, if I remember right. That would be when multiple results would matter.
Okay. Okay. So this is your, so it's not like you're showing the other results of different people. It's just they're
getting multiple results.
They're multiple results. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, that sounds too complicated if you're just beginning.
Again, yeah. That's why like those two I almost never do. Okay. Reordering it's an organization thing. So maybe you need to reorder at some point, but that's just because you put them in the wrong order.
Okay.
If I'm remembering that button correctly. So we're going to make a result. It's the exact same process, right? You add a title of some kind, right? I forgot to upload a picture for this one. We'll take that one. Sorry. That one's going to be big too. We'll just use the same one. So you take a picture. I thought I had put all of my pictures in one place, but apparently I'm in the wrong file. You take a picture for the results. Like I said, there's different sizes. So you see how this is a techie thing. Do you see how the box is different dimensions? Like we're seeing more of her. So this is where different, like that's the pixel stuff we were talking about, where you would probably personally want to hand it over to Rebecca. But you just want, because you don't want to, if there's a picture where you have to have the full length to get the feel for it, you don't want to pick that. Your visuals matter for your messaging and your branding too, and you want to give some thought to them. So if you need attribution, by the way, that's here, because there are some people who use, like Unsplash tends to not need attribution, not always, so check. But sources like those tend to not need attribution. But if you're very heavy into common, Creative Commons license, they might require some attribution. That's where you're going to put that here. But again, you need to look at every individual image that you're pulling. If you're not buying it with the rights outright, you might need to pay attention to that. So you crop and save the results picture. You've had the title of the result, and then you're going to add a description. This is like writing an email. So you're going to type sorry, pulling in my formatting. So you're going to type out a results, right? Keep it positive, and then show them their pain point.
Okay. And again, this is very conversational, and how you write these answers is really key to actually getting the leads in as well from your quiz, wouldn't it be?
Yeah. So this is where you would want if you don't do this on your own and you're not using us, this would be where you might want to hire a copywriter.
Okay. Because you could get all the way to here and then break it by not having the right words on the results.
We have copywriting on our team because we used to do full blown marketing. So like we can handle this, but if you're doing this DIY, like if you are not a writer, get a writer.
Yeah.
And then, do the tech part yourself and plug it in, because copy and paste is not that hard.
So tell me below if you love copywriting or you hire that out. It's one of the things that I love to write, except when it has to do for selling. So I'm terrible. I freeze right up. And if that's you, get help with it, right? Because it's not always a natural thing for people.
And honestly, some of our strategy clients are strategy only because they're too big to need us, not big enough. When it comes to like their marketing budget and stuff like that, because they might already have a copywriter on staff and they might already have a tech person, and they just need help with the strategy behind the messaging and stuff like that. So, if that's the case, then this is, then you need to look and say, okay, so this is, Sam is going to be the one who plans out the questions and stuff, and then they're going to hand it in a Word document to, Sean, and then you just figuring out who's going to do which things is important too. So then you have your call to action. You can hide it, although I don't know why you would, because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And so you put your call to action. You can change the size if you really want to make it obvious. I don't ever normally make it that big, but you can. And then you're going to put the call like here. So for example, this would be if you were a business coach and your main goal is to get them into a discovery session, you would put your appointment link.
The Talk to Nafissa link.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, that would go here. And then you can change your colors to your brand
colors.
Yeah.
Cool.
You can, don't just drag and pick a color unless you don't have branding. If you do have branding, which most people do have some kind of branding, get your hex number, which is the 6-digit code that you're seeing here. If you have a designer, they'll be able to give it to you. If you don't have a designer, there are tools online where it's like an eyedropper thing and it'll pull the number for you. Just look up like hex number finder, web tool for hex number or something like that. So you're going to pick a color that's going to get people interested, and then you're going to save it based on your brand colors that's going to get people interested. And then
so we're doing the results. Yes, just to
results first.
Is results first. Yeah, just in case,
because we need I don't have something like this prepped, but I want to be able to show the difference when we're working on the questions, the way that the different results work. So we're going to have more than one result here because I want to show that you can actually do some pretty cool so now we have multiple results, right? So you can see the missing the vision over here on the left. Then we have systems. So like you would put your different roadblocks here. Like I said, I would keep it to 3 or 4 unless it was something like that archetype quiz where there are several different personalities that you're aiming for, kind of thing.
But that wouldn't be a first quiz though, would it?
It wouldn't be for most people, no, unless they've already like licensed something like that. But then typically they've got tools for you like quizzes. Okay, so
and Rebecca's put the hex finder for colors into the live chat. So again, if you're on replay, scroll up to the live chat and it's in there.
Yeah, no, there's some great tools that you can find those. So get your colors, get them off your logo, whatever, make it branded because you can. You can't brand the logo itself, I think, without paying. But if I remember correctly, it's been a long time since I played with their free option, but if I remember correctly, you can set the colors in the free option.
And all of that is just still part of building trust, right? To have your colors consistent and congruent through what you do.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to steal a question off of here just because. So, and like you talked about the micro conversions, that kind of the subconscious stuff matters at every step.
Yes.
So, so for the questions, it's the same process. So like these pages all look very similar, right? It's the same process in that you put the main thing at the top. So on the questions page, it's the question that goes at the top. I always show an image, whether it's just topical like this, right? Like it's just a visual of the question itself. Or if it's one of those where it was like, it's needed for the actual answers. If it's topical, it's going to be here for the question image, and you can edit it the same way that we did with the other images, right? You would just click on it. If you want, you can find it. So one thing that's nice is that they use Pixabay, which is another search like Pexels or Unsplash. So let's say we wanted to do this. You can actually use their tool too.
Okay.
Right? They don't give you a ton, but they do give you some to get started. So if this is what it takes for you to make a quiz, like use theirs.
Grab what they got. Yeah,
Yep.
got it.
And then you'll know they get the attributions right and stuff like that too. At least I would assume that they'll get the attributions right.
Hope so.
So that's one way to do it, right? So, and then I'm going to do this question this way, and then we'll do another question on the next one that shows you how to use image answers instead of question image.
Okay.
So a question image is a topical one at the top of the question, and then you have, like it says answer, you type answer A here, and you type answer B here, and then you can add answer C and answer D. Don't have too many answers to pick from, 2 to 5, depending on what questions you're asking. It could be true and false, or it could be A, B, C, D, whatever you want to have. That kind of comes down to how you're writing your quiz. Answer settings.
And again, coming down to how you're writing your quiz and knowing how many questions to have, is there an art to that, or a science to that, or something that you would specifically?
There's best practices that not everybody agrees on. Most things that I've seen point to 7 to 10 questions are, you're not losing people. Again, it kind of goes back to people's attention spans, right?
And does it, the audience that they're working with, maybe affect how many choices you'd have for
it does. For example, I haven't had a client use quizzes for this, but I've debated using quizzes for this, where if you teach courses a lot, and you're not using a platform already, because there's some great course platforms that do this for you that have tests, but say you wanted to create tests and not pay for one of those platforms, you wanted to use Interact. If you had somebody that you were actually testing them on something, and it was an audience that had been paying to be in a course, like they're going to have more sticking power. They're going to finish it. So you could do 25 questions.
Okay.
But if it's a lead magnet, I'm gone after question like 12.
Yeah. Okay.
So keep in mind the audience and what you're trying to do. It is a bit of art and science, like you said, and just good, if you don't talk boring.
Again, this is where it's not about the tech, it's about the story and what's behind the tech.
Yeah, because the tech can do anything you want it to, basically.
Yeah.
So in some cases, you might have a reason that they would select multiple answers, but you don't really need it. And then this is where it gets to be. This is why the tech is
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I had 5 results, I would be pointing it to the different 5. But just to show you how it works, if they answer question A, it means that it's a systems problem.
Okay.
And if they answer question C, it means they're missing their vision.
Okay.
Thing. What's cool about it is maybe there's something where it means they're missing both the vision and the systems.
Okay.
And so the scoring system is really elaborate, in a good way, simple for you. And then it does cool stuff, right? So we use this a lot in the, like, what's your bridal style type quizzes, or what's your ideal vacation, right? So like if you were doing an ideal vacation quiz and the question was, what do you do on a rainy Saturday? There could be one answer that points to both wanting some quiet time to yourself or wanting some quiet time with somebody, like a real close friend or partner. So if an answer can indicate more than one, or if an answer to a question can indicate more than one result, you can do that. That's okay.
Okay. And the system will add up all the questions to give you the heaviest weighted. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So if they're, if this indicates both things and you don't want to lose it because it's an important pre-qualifier or a data point, you can have it and you can get both of those into their score, basically. And at the end, missing the vision or systems will win out based on the other answers in cooperation with this one.
Okay.
Cool. So this is, you can make it a little more complex by doing this, but it allows you to have a lot of control, which is important because of the segmentation that we talked about.
And this is, and again, this is like, I know I keep going back to like whatever. I mean, this is really cool. I'm so glad you're showing us the tech, because I think this is really, a lot of people could actually build one. And but I keep going back to how important this other piece is of knowing your audience, knowing how things correlate, really getting clear on that messaging or where the question would go. I mean, that I think is what's going to take the coaching and I mean, if that's what you do, that's great. But if you're not sure about that, this is something that, reach out to Kristin, get some help, so that you can create something like this that really gets you the results you want, because this is really, really powerful that you're able to do this, because you can direct people into anything you want to go. And the power of segmenting when you're actually doing your email marketing and following up is brilliant, right? Because you don't want to sell the wrong thing to the wrong person. Like, I mean, in my business, if they did a quiz like that, what's holding you back, and it's visions, or if it's mindset, or they don't know how to sell, those are three different things. And so you could have three very different campaigns that follow
and that's
that.
what we talk about. And some of it, like, this is the Why It Works page I was telling you about, and it's got a bunch of the different information about, like, how people relate to you and why they're interested and stuff like that. But one of the things is segmentation it increases your conversion rates if you can talk to people specific to what they need. And to be honest, it can be important to have people kind of opt themselves out too.
Yeah.
If you're a mortgage company and somebody with, this much money in the bank or this many credit score points off or whatever, is just not a good lead right then. For everybody's sake, that's a good thing to find out.
Yeah, right up front. Yeah, absolutely.
So that can help.
So we'll go back to what to do with them after. I don't want to keep interrupting your demo, because this is really good.
So we've only got like one more thing, is to do another question, right? Because I want to go question 2, and I won't drag you through doing the actual typing, but this is how you do use the image for the answers. So say, for example, like, what were we talking about?
What does your desk look like? Oh, this would be a good one for Dennis, hey? What's your desk look like?
If you're trying to figure out if you're trying to get, if you're trying to poke into who they are as a business person and figure out what's holding them back, knowing what their work area is going to look like is a valuable question. It's good for letting you know how they function. So you can definitely do there's again, and maybe they have something nice and clear and uncluttered.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to have this might be an Adobe stock search. I'll go with that. That might be, that's maybe a little bit elaborate.
Well, it gives the idea though, right?
Yeah. So like you give them options, right? And I'm trying to think, maybe they're somebody who's, a travel entrepreneur too. Like, these are all things that you might need to know about them.
Yeah.
And then you would give it, you want to explain it to them. So.
Okay, so that's important too, the caption. Don't let them decide what the picture means. You tell them, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is you do want to be feeding them, like, this is what I meant by the picture, because you want to be on the same page.
Okay. Yeah, because people interpret things differently. So it's really important.
Use words like I and you and your.
Okay.
Right. So like the you and yours are in the questions and the I's are in the answers.
Okay. Very important.
Right. And then you just do as many answers as make sense. In this case, I'm doing 3. And then you're going to edit the results the same way.
Okay.
Right. So, here, this, might not be indicating a problem, as much, although maybe, missing the vision and the systems isn't going to be a thing, but
or control freak, they can't delegate.
So I think that actually might have been one of his things, but so something that might hold your business back is being a little flexible. If you're not a little flexible, you might have an issue, and that, as a business coach, that's an important point to make. So you would connect that to that result. Yeah. And then, so you've got all that, you've got your, continue to add questions, add all the rest of your results, and then you're going to do the style. And this is, again, I don't remember exactly which bells and whistles don't work in the free version, but you would customize these things. So you've got background color, you can change. But if you do that, you want a different font color, right?
Yeah.
Option is talking about, I don't know if you noticed, but the option is the answer. So that's the box that goes around the text on the answers. So, you know, if you're trying to make it kind of color coordinate, right? So you see how that's changing the box around the answer.
Got it. Okay. Okay. It's very much like, I mean, this would be like any drag and drop thing, like
Yeah,
lead pages
it really is very simple, which is why
or ClickFunnels. Yeah.
That's why I like Interact so much. And you can change the font. When you click on one, oh, no, not what I wanted to do. But when you click on one, that's the selected option here, right? So, you know, maybe you want to basically make that one white. The progress bar runs across the very top up here, like it's not showing in this bit, but that shows them how many questions they've gone through as like a scale.
Okay. And I think that's important because I've done things and it's just kind of good to know how how much more you've got to be committed to this.
I try to make it pretty obvious. So, you know, use your accent color there. If you have branding colors that make sense. And then if you want to animate the checkbox, that just means that it you know, it shows up. And then you can change your fonts. If you have any that you're dying to use, it's any Google fonts. So if you have any really specific, I think you can change your font on the free version, but it's going to have to be within the Google fonts.
Does it allow you to, on the paid version, upload your own fonts?
I'm able to tap into some things like Adobe Typekit and things like that, but I don't know for sure if that's paid version or not.
Okay. Likely it would be to be able to do that. Yeah, because I mean, even things like Canva, you can't put your own. You can put your own fonts in, but you have to have the paid version.
Now, anybody here can buy the paid version. It's just not really cheap. You're looking at the versions we pay for are more. I don't remember what the one person account costs, to be honest. We can check their price before we log off. But yeah, so you could pay, and then that would let you do things. If you do decide to pay, that would let you do things like uploading your logo.
But I think, you know, in terms of paying for something like that, if this is your branding and it's going to be your lead, like your main lead magnet to get people in, the question I would ask somebody is, well, what do you got to sell? Like, how many clients do you have to pay for this? And it's probably not that many.
Right.
So
and there's some other, like the bells and whistles are worth it to me too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the light is, it's not, you know, it's not prohibitive.
Yeah, I mean, that's, if you look at that, that's $17 a month. So that's, you know, you're paying less than $200 a year to have something that could potentially bring you thousands of dollars a month. So,
and if you're not sure about it, like for the first couple months, pay monthly.
Yeah.
Spend the extra $12 until you see you're getting leads. I would give it 3 to 4 months. Like don't get out of it too quick. And then you can switch to annual because they give a big.
That's a huge savings for annual. Wow. Like I've never seen it that big.
Yeah. So right now we just bumped up to some, like an even higher plan. So like right now I'm still on monthly to see if the bells and whistles that we got are worth it before we go back to annual. Yeah. But you can see, you can make as many quizzes as you want and have as many visitors finish as you want, but free actually, and I didn't even realize this, free doesn't let you collect the emails.
Okay. And I've also noticed that the price goes up the more complex your mailing system is too.
Yeah, for sure. So we have these, but for most people who are doing this themselves, they're probably not tapping into those mailing systems.
Yeah.
So if you are doing this yourself, the free version is great to test it out. And then what you would do there, if you don't want to pay for it, which is fine because it's a new thing and you're testing it and you don't know if it's going to convert, although you can do it by the month. So you lower your risk there, and there's a free trial. But if you do it on your own and you like the quiz, but you don't want to collect the emails on it and you don't want the branching logic or the branding or whatever, you remember it let you send the results other places and had a call to action. Like there are a couple places you can direct them somewhere else. You could direct them to an email sign up page.
Yep. And you know what? And if it is working well for you, then it's just
for a couple
then
reasons I would invest in it. One, I think it's a good company, right?
And just something we probably should clarify here for YouTube. We are not sponsored by Interact. We are not getting paid any affiliate commission on this at all. If you're watching this, thank you, Rebecca. We're showing you how to use a tool. So this is not there's no paid product placement here. But I'm just more speaking from the.
We use this with our clients because we like it, but we'll use other plans. Like there's some clients that will want Typeform or some of the other ones.
And I'm just speaking more philosophically when I'm talking about buying it, like just because my whole thing about the way I look at working in business is, if you want to be in business, then be in business, and if you want people to pay you, then you need to pay other people. So that's my philosophy. I'm not selling Interact. I have no commission.
I was just going to say the same thing. So all of these, if you use SurveyMonkey, can be done with this too. Like you can adapt it to do a quiz type thing. Typeform, there's like I said, a half a dozen ones that you could find right away.
Yeah.
If you think about it, their free account here for TryInteract or SurveyMonkey or any of them, that's their lead magnet.
Yes.
So recognize
their funnel.
When they give you value, they want you to move to the next step because that's what businesses do. Yeah. And if you're trying to build your funnel by camping out in other people's lead magnets,
that's out of integrity.
You're missing the mark a little bit.
Yeah, like the whole reason with going with trying to get the free version or doing the trial is to just see if it works. But once it works, I mean, and this is something, I mean, I'll rant on this on my Facebook page all the time, is like it's so out of integrity and out of alignment with the laws of success and the laws of the universe to be wanting to make money and have someone else pay for it and have you not do that. So as Kristin said, like you're in their funnel at that point. If it is working for you, then it is the right thing to do to move up to that next paid level. There's nothing wrong with trying it out for free to see if it works. It's kind of like, I mean, I look at my business. I mean, I give so much free content so people can engage with me and see what it's like to engage with me for free. So it's the same thing. So if you're trying something out to see if it works on their free trial, absolutely. But yeah, if it is working for you and you want to keep doing it, then don't camp out in their lead magnet. Like that's not cool. Well, and I love how you worded that. That is just that's gold. There's a blog post about that.
Well, and it's, I mean, and the free is there for a reason, right? Like it does fit for some people. We tried the free to begin with to just get a feel for it, but then even for some people, it makes sense to stay there for a little bit because they are brand new.
Yeah.
And then that's a case of the funnel doing its job. Like we've talked about how in our funnels, not everybody's in the right spot to take the next step. So they're giving you the tool, but they're hoping to hold the space for you so that you can then be ready to move to the next step.
Exactly.
So this is kind of some of the stuff that like the advanced analytics we pay for because that's awesome. Being able to plug. So this, I'm going to get super techie for just a second. I promise I'll keep it short. Mm-hmm. The Facebook pixels is
going to lose me here.
Track conversion from Facebook ads. So one of the things, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So one of the things that I like about Interact, I'm going to go back to my dashboard. So this is the quiz we looked at, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to share it, they give you all these different tools. So I changed things. So they'll help you set up a Facebook ad, not on the Facebook end, but they'll show you like, this is how you, like, this is what you need to do.
Okay.
Like I said, Interact and any of these tools will, SurveyMonkey will, all of them will tell you how to use their tool. It's in their best interest too. Mm-hmm. But anything you have that's a lead magnet, you could be running paid advertising to as well. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's required. I don't think it has to be Facebook. Again, like the Interact, disclaimer you just gave, it doesn't, maybe you're running a paid Pinterest ad. Maybe you're running a paid ad on your local newspaper, the website, not obviously to make it clickable. But anything that has that, you want to track the conversions. And then if it happens to be Facebook, because that is one of the most common advertisings, Facebook Pixels is their analytic tool, right? So you embed your Facebook pixel in here and they have that ability with an integration.
And that's really important if you are spending money on advertising to actually track it, because I think that's where people will sometimes just throw good money after bad, is they're not really paying attention to, are the dollars they're investing creating the result they want. And that's a key part. I mean, I'll geek out on my accounting background here. Like accounting and shouldn't run the business, but you do want to make sure that you're getting good data back to know whether this was the right thing to do. And if it is, then you invest more. And if it's not, you do something different. Or do you need to rewrite your quiz, right? Because sometimes like there's a lot of information you can get from that, right? Like are people clicking your ad but not doing your quiz?
And look at this is exactly what you just talked about, the drop-off graphs.
Yeah.
And again, any tool that has analytics, if it's a different platform, they'll give you the same availability, but they're going to show you in this particular platform, they're going to show you where people are stopping.
Yeah.
If you pay for the analytics, of course.
But if you're paying to advertise, you should be paying for the analytics.
Yeah, for sure. And you can see the different ways that it lets you share. So as a pop-up on your site, that's a tech thing. But you could get it so that it pops up on your site. You can get it embedded, like I said. You can even build it in so that it's just the link on an announcements bar. But this direct link is what we showed for the demo.
Okay, I like, and that announcement bar on the website is pretty cool because then you're just capturing a lead magnet right on your webpage, which is really cool.
Yeah. So there's a million different ways you can lead people to your quiz, just like any lead magnet. So we can't possibly exhaust all of this stuff today, but any way you get people to a lead magnet, you can get people to a quiz.
Yeah.
So social media posts, whatever. And then again, like you said, Interact is just Interact. There's a bunch of different places, but they're all going to have this where you're paying for different features. So pay attention to which ones you need. Yeah. For me, using your branding is important. So we do these.
Yeah.
That tends to be a big number for some people. But again, that's a cost of acquisition. If you get 5 leads, that's nothing.
Yeah.
For how much some businesses pay per lead.
Yeah, no, totally.
And 5 leads is a low goal. So it just depends. And like I said, check out, look, because for us, the look and the feel and the behind the scenes for Interact made the most sense. But I've messed around in a bunch of different platforms. I love Typeform. A lot of people already have a SurveyMonkey thing. If you do, you're already paying for it. Use that.
Well, and the thing too that, when you talk about with the branding piece, and which I think is really important is, and you talked about this, we talked about it earlier, where you were talking about the time cost for you involved, like that investment. If the branding is what creates the trust as you go through the full story and through like every interaction somebody has with you. And so if you're putting all this time into creating a quiz and marketing that, like even if you're not paying for the software, you're paying for it out of other things you could be doing to generate income. And so if you're creating all that, and then you're creating a distrust or a disconnect with your audience because the branding isn't congruent or you don't have the ability to take them through a cohesive story, then, how much have you actually wasted because they're not completing the quiz versus being able to have everything in place that will allow them and allow you to give them the full experience. So that's a philosophical thing, but I'm big on paying your way.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, I think it's finding the right layers and keeping them if they make sense.
Yeah.
Like you're not signing up for life, but you're adding the complexities that make the journey easier for you, your employees, and or your clients.
And I think that's an important point too. Like you're not adding them for life. Like there's some subscriptions I have where sometimes I need different features, and so we will upgrade for whatever that campaign is that we're doing. And then when we don't use them, I also don't believe in throwing money out the window. Then we will downgrade for the time we're not using it.
Yeah,
right?
Actually, we do that with the Adobe stock. You get 10 pictures a month. And sometimes we don't need them. Like if clients bring their own pictures or if we're not doing whatever, and we do like Unsplash and things like that, or we've just bought a ton for ourselves. And so if we haven't done this in a long time, but if we don't need a couple months, we'll take it off. Now it depends because sometimes you sign up for a 12-month subscription or whatever.
Well, and that's where you have to do like the cost benefit, right? And that's why the monthly ones, when you pay monthly, are usually more expensive because people do that. But sometimes you got to add up: is 2 months at $83 worth it versus paying $600 for the year if you're not going to use it? So there's just things you have to make.
And I don't know the discounts on like Typeform or MailChimp or whatever, but like if it's 40% off, then if you were gonna go 8 months, you might as well go 12.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for showing that demo. I think the other thing too, I just want to talk about before we let everybody go, so we've kept them here a long time, is just once you collect these leads, like what do you do with them? Like, this is just the start, and there's a lot of tech involved, but it looks to me like, okay, the actual tech part is probably just a few hours work. It's all the writing. I'm going through this on my own funnel right now. It's just like writing the emails, looking at the lead magnets, making sure the messaging's right. That takes a long time. And so just to get them in. So once they're in, like what do you do with them? Like how do you run them through? How do you take them from type happy quiz people to qualified leads and eventually paying customers?
Yeah. So it's the same flow that you would, when I say the same flow, there's a million ways to make that flow, but it's the same flow that you would put in place for any lead magnet. So you just are starting from a better spot.
So you have more information about them.
And they've gotten more information about you, and they already tend to like you better after a quiz than a lot of other stuff. Video does perform real well too, so that's another valuable lead magnet. It just depends. Again, it depends on what you need people to think and do, and who you're talking to, and all that kind of stuff. Quizzes are great. They might not be right for a particular launch. It just depends.
But they're the opening of the funnel, but then we still have to funnel them somewhere and into something.
Yeah. So it'll depend on what you want them to do. Are you trying to get them into a discovery session? Are you trying to get them to book a retreat ticket? Are you trying to get them to buy a course? And then, so you're going to plug them into the follow-up steps. Now, obviously, most people will rely on automating emails. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's the most effective way to set up a funnel, because you don't have to, you set it once and you're done. And those are the ones we build for people for the most part. But in strategy sessions, if they aren't going to use an automated funnel, because not everybody needs to or wants to, or will get good results from it comparatively. You know, for example, if I was my own client and I was building the funnel that we're talking about that's going to involve handwritten letters, then, you know, we're mapping it out, but we're not putting it in tech.
Okay.
So either way, you want to map out the following steps, and you probably need twice as many as you think you do.
Like steps in your funnel.
So send them 3 emails, send them, you know, 8.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's something too that people sometimes think like I'm over emailing people, but when you look at actual open rates or stuff that ends up in junk or other or whatever, it's better to have a couple more in there to make sure they actually see it. Because I mean, I know just even being on the receiving end of stuff, like sometimes I don't see things, then I'll go find it in my junk like a week later.
Right. Yeah. So, and there's stuff behind that to try to increase deliverability rates and open rates and things like that. So you can really, but that's one of those things that goes back to what we were talking about with the layers.
Yeah.
Get the emails up, and if they're not working, see where they're not working, and then try to address that. Send the letters, and if they're not working, see if you can tweak something and see if you get better results with the next batch that you send out or whatever. Make the phone calls. You'll get immediate feedback if it's not working.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a fan of phone calls. But I mean, I think that's the thing too. Like, I mean, people sometimes tend to think that, I think one of the lines that drives me crazy is like, you just put your business on autopilot, and somebody said to me like, like passive income and just make money without thinking, but it never happens that way. So even a funnel, like you can sort of set it and forget it, but you still have to be looking at your analytics, looking at the results, tweaking it, working with it till you absolutely get it dialed in. Like it's a living thing. It's dynamic.
Well, and it's back to the Plinko example. They're seeing your social media posts. They're seeing your, all of that kind of stuff that you're doing out there. Any articles you get into the press, whatever, are all part of your funnel and your messaging as well. I think you were kind of talking about like topics that they could put in there too. So just as an example, like a follow-up elaboration on a point from the lead magnet. So if you did a PDF that were like your 3 biggest pricing mistakes, and mistake number 2 is one you think is really important, you could talk about mistake number 2 more. Stuff like that. So any kind of elaboration is a great follow-up. Any kind of inspirational story is a great follow-up. Typically about a client you've had.
Social proof is really good. Like the join me in congratulating. Some of you might recognize that in my sequences, but you want to know that people are actually getting results.
Yeah. So there's typically, and sometimes I say 5 and other times I've got like 6. It just depends on, if I'm adding things in my brain or not, but there's really 5 main things that we'll map out a 10 email sequence that uses different combos of this in different ways and different orders, depending on who you are and who you're talking to and all that kind of stuff. But they'll all, going back to the example, I see the same 5 topics, just like Dennis sees the same 3 roadblocks, and you see the same 4 personalities and all that kind of stuff. So you can have an inspirational post that's also like, or social proof. So that's one that's like giving them hope, inspiring them, is showing them the end result. It's a vision thing. There can be an educational post, which can be taken 100 different ways, but education of some kind, right? There can be a personal post. So that's introducing them to you or your company or your team, something behind the scenes. There can be, so inspiration and social proof, I kind of keep separate, but they both inspire. So there's inspirational, like, I guess I call that my preaching. So it's not educational, it's your preacher email.
Okay.
But then there's social proof, which is inspirational from like a results standpoint. So that's not the right term for it. So there's social proof, and then there's the preacher proof. So that's the, you said, what did you say earlier? It was, I don't remember, but it was something the effect of like, you are so valuable kind of thing.
Well, the one I posted today on my page.
Yeah. So like it goes back to what are your 3 hills that you'll die on?
Yeah.
If you can click into preacher mode and you're,
you can have me doing anything you want if you'll just get out of your own damn way.
Yeah, and
that's fine.
One of the things in your sequences, right? So you're going to go between social proof and educating and inspiring / preaching and social proof educates, and then and then the personal. So those are the ones we've talked about so far. Yeah. And then there's also just the really quick notes. So like, hey, yesterday I sent you this. What did you think about it? Yeah. Or you saw the top 3 selling T-shirts we had. Which one was your favorite? So
and, those are amazing, because like I know even when we use those type of stuff in our own business, we'll actually get replies. For some reason, people think they're not in a mailing, like. Yep. I mean, they won't be HTML. They'll be plain text, and they'll be very short. Yeah. And people actually reply.
That gets into kind of the techie part of it. But yeah, I suggest not making it as pretty, because you want to encourage them to reply, but only do it if you're actually going to talk to them.
Yeah.
Don't automate conversation if you're faking it.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but then I do those in our sequences. I love them because you get replies, and you want to be asking questions that open conversations that people actually want to have. Yeah. But so those are kind of the 5 categories we tend to find, and then you build out sequences of 8 to 12 to 20 emails. It just depends on where you're trying to get people. It depends on how many threads you had. Are you dropping them into one funnel from the quiz and doesn't segment them, or did you segment them into 4 different results or 2 different funnels? Like, it just depends. Yeah. If you were doing are you ready for this, you might have 3 results that are ready and 2 results that are not. So maybe you only have 2 funnel, 2 lists coming off of the funnel. It just depends. But you would set up a follow-up, whatever that is. And then you would just allow it to take its.
So you stay engaged with them, right? And they know who you are, and just to keep them interested and keep building trust. Okay. Yeah. Well, we've kept people here almost 2 hours today. So thank you so much. Like, that was really helpful. And, to our audience, and if you're watching this and you've been here this whole time, well, thank you for going through this with all of us. Kristin is available. All of her contact info is below this video. Like, we've got a link to a gift she has for you to help you figure out what your correct lead magnet is. I have all of her social handles below. Go and follow her on Instagram, LinkedIn. Her LinkedIn posts are super, super, super educational, and they can really help get you thinking in your business. And of course, if you need help with your messaging, Kristin is really, really, really good at this. I mean, I know I'm plugging her shamelessly here, but I wouldn't do that if I didn't believe it and know it firsthand. Like, I mean, I have this channel to help you build your business, to make those quantum leaps in your income. But there's a lot of things I have no idea how to do. I have a team, and I hire people to help me with that. And so there's no shame in saying, like, I need some help, and I need somebody who can actually help me and understand this. And the time it can save you just in the fact of you not having to do it yourself, and the time it can save you in the fact that you're getting your leads in a lot faster, is usually worth the time or the investment. She has all different ways that she can help you with it, even if it's just one of those 1-hour strategy sessions to get you on your way to getting the right messaging. And so, I mean, as you've seen, like, the tech, I mean, for a lot of people, it's easy. For me, it's not. I blank out on tech. I'm not going to lie. Like, I have a mind. One of my roadblocks is tech. But that can be done quite easily if you have a mind for it. It's making sure that you've thought the whole thing out, because the quiz is just one piece of the puzzle, and on its own, obviously, it's not going to do much for you. There's so much there that you need to have in place, like your ideal client, what your message is, what you're offering, where they are in their business, all the things we talked about, their level of awareness, what message is going to land with them, what type of quiz would work with them, and then what type of messaging after they go through it is going to still continue to build that trust, so that they engage and they take action, and they're continually doing all those micro conversions. So there's a lot to it there. I mean, like I said, if you're watching this on replay and you're still with us, leave your questions below. We will come back and answer them. And if you want an immediate answer, we have Kristin's email address, which is hello@KristenSchneider.com, and she'll be happy to answer you. So Kristin, thank you so much for doing this for today. I'm going to sign off. You can stay on the line. I'm just going to disconnect us. Hold on a second. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.